I drink your milkshake.
You are listening to the Billionaire Podcast Network.
The lay was snug, the minstrel's tale at an end. Merry noise arose once more, loud and clear, the sound of revelry upon the seats. The cupbearers gave out wine from vessels wondrous wrought. Now came Wealhtheow forth, and wearing many a gold ring, she went to where those proud men sat, both uncle and brother's son. Still was their kinship's love between them, and each to the other true. There too Unferth the king's sage sat at the feet of the Scalding's lord. Each man among them trusted in his mind's temper that he had a mighty heart, albeit he had not in the play of swords dealt mercy to his kin. Then spake the lady of the Scaldings, "Receive now this cup, dear lord of mine, giver of rich gifts. In happy hour be thou from whom men get love and gifts of gold, and to the Geats speak with kindly words, as behoves a man. To the Geats be gracious, and forget not to give of those things that now thou hast gathered from near and far. I have heard men say that thou wert in mind to take this warrior for thy son. Lo! Heorot is cleansed, this shining hall where rings are dealt. Dispose while yet thou mayest of many a reward, and to thy kin after thee leave thy people in thy realm, when thou must go forth to look upon thy fate. Hrothulf, I know well, my nephew fair, that he will in honor cherish these our youths. If thou, dear master of the Scaldings, scoot sooner than he do leave this world, methinks that he will with good repay our sons, if he recalleth all those deeds of grace that we did unto him, to his pleasure and his honor, while yet he was a child." Then turned she to the seat where sat her sons, Rethric and Rothmund, and the children of mighty men, young warriors all, were gathered together. There beside those brethren twain, that brave heart sat Beowulf of the Geats. To him was the cup borne, and friendship offered in fair words. And the twisted gold was brought forth with all goodwill, 2 armlets, a mantle, and rings, and the mightiest of torques that I have heard was ever upon the neck of man on earth. Beneath the light of day I heard never men tell of any better treasure in the hoards of the mighty, since Hama bore away to the bright city the necklace of the Brossings, jewel and precious vessel. He fled from the ensnaring hate of Eormenric, and chose the counsels of the eternal faith. This circlet, Higelac, king of the Geats, of the blood of Swerting, had with him on that last day when beneath his standard he defended his treasures and fought for the spoil of battle. Fate took him, for that he in his pride had challenged his own ruin and the enmity of the Frisian folk. This fair thing of precious stones he bore now over the bowl of the seas, a king in his might. Beneath his shield he fell. Thus into the grasp of the Frank came now the life of the king. The armor upon his breast, and that necklet too. And warriors, albeit of less prowess in arms, there stripped the slain when the blows of battle were done. The people of the Geats were left upon the field of slain. The hall was filled with clamor. These words did Wealhtheow utter before all that host she spake. Have and use well to thy good this precious thing, Beowulf, young and dear, and for thine own joy take this mantle, a thing treasured among this people, and prosper well. Show forth thyself in valor, and to these my sons be thou gracious in thy counsels, for that my heart will remember to reward thee. Thou hast achieved that far and near all the ages long shall men esteem thee, as wide as the sea encircleth the windy walls of the land. Be thou blessed, O Prince, while thy life endures, a wealth of precious things. I wish thee with good heart. Be thou to my sons kindly in deeds, possessing days of mirth. In this place is each good man to his fellow true, friendly in heart, loyal unto his liege lord, of one mind the servants of the king, the people all ready to his will, his warriors filled with wine. Do thou as I bid. She went then to her seat. There was the very choice of banquets. There men drank their wine. Fate they knew not, grim, appointed of old, as it had gone already forth for many of those good men, so soon as evening came, and Hrothgar the mighty departed to his lodging and to his couch. The hall was guarded by a host of men uncounted, even as it was oft before. They stripped the benches of wooden board, and all along the hall were beds and pillows spread. Over those who had there drunk the ale fate hung now nigh at hand, as they laid them upon their couches on the floor. At their heads they set their warlike shields, targes fashioned of wood and blazoned bright. There upon each bench was plain to see above each knight the helm that he had borne aloft in battle, and his coat of ringed mail, his spear valiant in the press of war. Their manner was it that seldom were they unprepared for the onslaught, be it at home or amid the host, or in either case, even at all such times as upon their liege lord need should come. A worthy company was that. Now they sank into sleep. One there was who paid grievously for his rest that eve, even as full oft had befallen them in time when Grendel had dwelt in that golden hall and wrought evil there, even until his end came in death after his deeds of wrong. Plain was it made and published abroad among men that an avenger to succeed their foe lived yet long while after that woeful strife. Grendel's mother, ogress, fierce destroyer in the form of woman, misery was in her heart, she who must abide in the dreadful waters and the cold streams, since Cain with the sword became the slayer of his only brother, his kinsman by his father's blood. Thereafter he departed an outlaw branded with murder, shunning the mirth of men, abiding in the wilderness. From thence sprang many creatures doomed of old, of whom was Grendel one, outlawed by hate, as is the deadly wolf, who at Heorot had found one who unsleeping awaited battle. There had the fierce slayer seized upon him, but he remembered the night of his valor, that gift which God had bounteously bestowed upon him, and he trusted in the one God for mercy, for succor, and for aid. Therewith did he vanish that fiend and brought low the creature of hell. Wherefore that enemy of man departed humbled, robbed of his triumph, to look upon his house of death. And now once more his mother, grim-hearted, ravenous, was minded to go upon a journey full of woe to avenge the slaying of her son. Now was she come to Heorot, where the Ring-Dane slept along the hall. There suddenly now old ills returned upon those knights, when into their midst crept Grendel's mother. Less indeed was the terror, even by so much as is the might of women, the terror of a woman in battle compared with armed man. When the sword with wire-bound hilt, hammer forged, its blade stained with dripping blood, trusty of edge, cleaves the opposing boar-crest high upon the helm. Lo! In the hall along the benches, stout-edged swords were drawn. Many a tall shield was gripped in hand and held aloft. Of his helm no man bethought him, nor of long corslet when that horror came upon him. She was in haste. Out and away she would be gone for the saving of her life, now that she was discovered. Swift and close had she clutched one of those noble knights as she departed to the fen. He was unto Hrothgar of all his men of might, holding high place in his court, the one most dear, the two seas between. Proudly had he borne his shield in battle, whom now she rent upon his bed. A man established in renown. Not there was Beowulf, but to that glorious Geatish knight had other lodging been assigned after the giving of gifts. Clamor arose in Heorot. Under the covering dark, she took the arm she knew so well. Grief was renewed and was come again to those dwelling places. An evil barter was that, wherein they must on either side exchange the lives of men beloved. Now was that king aged in wisdom, warrior gray of hair, in mournful mood, knowing that his princely servant lived no more, and that most beloved of his men was dead. Swiftly was Beowulf, that warrior whom victory had blessed, summoned to the king's chamber. With the break of day he went, a noble champion with his good men about him, himself and his companions, to where that wise king abode, pondering whether haply the Almighty God will ever after these grievous tidings bring some betterment to pass. Now strode across the floor that man well tried in arms. Amid his retinue the timbers of the hall echoed, and there he addressed in speech the wise lord of the friends of Ing, asking if he had known response according to his desire. Hrothgar made answer, the guardian of the Scyldings, ask not for news of happy hours. Sorrow is come anew upon the people of the Danes. Dead is Aesir, the elder brother of Irminloth. My counsels were his, and his wisdom mine. At my right hand he stood when on fatal field we fended our lives, as the ranks clashed in battle and the boar crests rang. Such should a good man be, of noble birth, long tried in deeds, even as was Aesir. In Heorot has death come upon him at the hands of a wandering murderous thing. I know not whither she hath turned her backward steps, as dreadfully she gloats over her prey, exulting in her belly's fill. That deed of war she hath avenged, that last night thou didst slay in violent wise Grendel with thy gripings hard, for that he too long had minished and destroyed my folk. He fell in battle, forfeiting his life, and now another hath come, a mighty doer of cruel wrong. She purposed to avenge her kin, and indeed hath carried far the feud, as may well seem to many a knight who mourns in his heart for him that gave him bounty, a heart-piercing grief and bitter. Now lieth still that hand that aforetime availed to accomplish for you, O knights, all things of your desire. This have I heard dwellers in the land, lieges of mine, vassals in their halls, recount, telling how they saw two such mighty stalkers of the outer places, who kept the moors alien creatures. Of these was one, in so far as they might clear discern, a shape as of a woman, the other miscreated thing in man's form trod the ways of exile, albeit he was greater than any other human thing. Him in days of old the dwellers on earth named Grendel. Of a father they knew not, nor whether any such was ever before begotten for him among the demons of the dark. In a hidden land they dwell upon highlands wolf-haunted and windy cliffs, and the perilous passes of the fens, where the mountain stream goes down beneath the shadows of the cliffs, a river beneath the earth. It is not far hence in measurement of miles that mere lies, over which there hang rimy thickets, and a wood clinging by its roots overshadows the water. There may each night be seen a wonder grim fire upon the flood. There lives not of the children of men one so wise that he should know the depth of it. Even though harried by the hounds, the ranger of the heath, the hart strong in his horns, may seek that wood being hunted from afar. Sooner will he yield his life and breath upon the shore than he will enter to hide his head therein. No pleasant place is that. Thence doth the tumult of the waves arise darkly to the clouds, when wind arouses tempests foul until the airs are murky and the heavens weep. Now once more doth hope of help depend on thee alone. The abode as yet thou knowest not, nor the perilous place where thou canst find that creature stained with sin. Seek it if thou durst. For that assault I will with riches reward thee, with old and precious things, even as I did ere now, yea, with twisted gold, if thou comest safe away. Beowulf made answer, the son of Ecgtheow, grieve not, O wise one. Better it is for every man that he should avenge his friend than he should much lament. To each one of us shall come in time the end of life in the world. Let him who may earn glory ere his death. No better thing can brave knight leave behind when he lies dead. Arise, O Lord of this realm. Swiftly let us go and look upon the footprint of Grendel's kin. This I vow to thee, in no refuge shall he ever hide, neither in bosom of earth nor in mountain forest, nor in the deeps of the sea go where he will. For this day have patience in every woe, even as I know thou wilt. Then did the aged king leap up, and God, the mighty Lord, he thanked for that other's words. Now a horse was bridled for Hrothgar, a steed with plaited mane, and forth the wise prince went in seemly array. And forth the wise prince went with seemly array. Forth went the company of his warriors bearing shields. Far over the paths across the wolds, the print of her feet. Her course over the lands was plain to see, as straight on she strode over the darkling moor, bearing the best of knights who by Hrothgar's side had ruled his house, a lifeless corse. And now those men of noble race, steep stony slopes they overpassed, narrow tracks and one-man paths, down unfamiliar trails, past headlong crags, and many a house of demons of the deep. One with a few men of hunting craft went on before to spy the land, until on a sudden he came upon the mountain trees, leaning o'er the horror rock, a joyless forest. Blood-stained and troubled water loomed beneath. To all the Danes, vassals of the scalding lords, to the hearts of many a knight, Grievous was it endure and pain to all good men, when there upon the cliff above the deep they found the head of a shear. The water surged with gore, with blood yet hot. The people gazed thereon. Ever and anon the horn cried an eager call unto the host. There sat them down the ranks of men. Now they saw about the water many of the serpent kind, strange dragons of the sea, ranging the flood, and demons of the deep lying upon the jutting slopes, even such as in the middle hours watch for those journeying anxious upon the sailing paths, serpents and beasts untamed. Back they dived, filled with wrath and hate. They had heard the clangor of the war horns braying. One the Geatish chief with an arrow from his bow, bereft of life, and his labor in the waves, that in his vitals stood the hard and deadly dart. Therefore less swift to swim in the deeps was he, for death took him. Straightway amid the waves with boar spears cruelly barbed, sorely was he pressed and grievously assailed, and dragged upon the jutting cliff, monstrous upheaver of the waves. Men there gazed upon this strange and terrible thing. In warrior's harness Beowulf clad him, no whit recked he of his life. Now must his long corslet, woven for battle by the hands of smiths and cunningly adorned, make trial of the flood, raiment skilled to guard his body's frame, that the grappling of war and the fell clutch of angry foe should not harm his life. But his head the white helm guarded, that now must stir the deep places of the mere, searching out the eddying floods, adorned with gold and clasped with rich chains, even as in days of old a weaponsmith had wrought it, marvelously fashioning it, setting thereon images of the boar, so that thereafter never blade nor swords of strife might cleave it. Nor yet was that thing to be misprized among his mighty aids, which to him in his need Hrothgar's sage had lent. Hrunting was the name of that hafted blade. Preeminent among old and precious things was that of iron was the blade stained, with a device of branching venom, made hard in the blood of battle. Never had it in warfare betrayed any man of those that had wielded it with hands, who had dared to achieve adventures perilous upon battlefields against their foes. This was not the first time that it was required to accomplish valorous deeds. Verily, the son of Ecglaf, mighty of valor, remembered not that which he had before spoken, being filled with wine, when he lent that weapon to a swordsman worthier than was he. He durst not himself beneath the warring waves adventure his life in deeds of prowess perform. There he forfeited glory for heroic deeds. Not so that other, who now had arrayed him for battle. Beowulf spake, the son of Ecgtheow, forget not, O thou the son renowned of Healfdene, wise prince from whom men get love and gifts of gold, now that I haste to mine adventure, that which was aforetime spoken between us. If I should, as at thy need, lay down my life, that thou wouldst ever be to me when I was gone in father's stead, be thou protector of the knights that follow me, the companions at my side, if battle take me, and send thou to those precious gifts that thou hast given me, beloved Hrothgar unto Hygelac. Then by that gold may the son of Hrethel, lord of the Geats, when he gazeth upon that treasure, perceive and understand that, finding a giver of rings, a lord endowed with generous virtue, I earned his bounty while I might, and let Unferth, that man of wide renown, receive back his olden heirloom, his sword cunningly adorned with flowing lines and heart of edge. For myself glory will I earn with Hrunting, or death shall take me. After these words, the prince of the wind-loving Geats hastened dauntless forth, for no answer would he wait. The surging sea engulfed that warrior bold. Thereafter, a long hour of the day, it was ere he could descry the level floor. Straightway that creature that with cruel lust, ravenous and grim, had 100 seasons held the watery realm, perceived that there from on high some man was come to espy the dwelling of inhuman things. She clutched then at him, seized in her dire claws the warrior bold. No whit the sooner did she hurt his body unharmed within. The ringmail fended about him. The ringmail fended him about, that she might not pierce with cruel fingers the supple linked shirt that clad him in the fray. Then that she-wolf of the waves, to the sea bottom coming, bore the mail-clad prince unto her abode. Even so, in no wise could he wield his weapons. Wroth was he thereat. So many a monster strange beset him sorely as they swam, and many a beast of the sea with fell tusks at his hauberk tore. Fierce destroyers pressed upon him. Now then the good man perceived that he was in some abysmal hall, he knew not what, wherein no water did him any hurt, nor might the sudden onrush of the flood touch him by reason of the vaulted chamber. A light as of fire he saw with gleaming flames there shining bright. Then did that gallant one perceive the monstrous woman of the sea, she-wolvish outlaw of the deep. To his warlike sword he lent a mighty force, nor did his hand hold back the blow, and on her head the weapon ring adorned sang out its lusting song of war. Soon did the invader learn that in battle shining it would bite not there nor harm her life. Nay, that blade failed the prince at need, which aforetime had endured many a clash of blows, oft times had cloven helm and harness of the doomed. This was the first venture for that dearly prized thing wherein its glory fell. Again he made on, no laggard in valor, remembering his renowned deeds, the kinsman of Higelac. As he fought in ire, he cast away that blade with twisted ornament and curiously bound, and upon the earth it lay steel-edged and strong. He trusted in his strength, in the grasp of his own mighty hands. Such shall a man's faith be when he thinks to win enduring fame in war. No care for his life will trouble him. Then seized the prince of Geatish warriors Grendel's mother by her locks, rueing not the cruel deed, and his mortal foe he threw, for now he grim in war was filled with wrath, and she was bowed unto the floor. Again she swiftly answered him with like, and grappling cruelly she clutched at him, then stumbled, desperate at heart, that warrior most strong, that champion of the host, and he in turn was thrown. Then did she bestride the invader of her hall, and drew her knife with broad and burnished blade. She thought to avenge her son and only child. Upon his shoulders hung the woven net of mail about his breast. This now his life defended, and withstood the entry of both point and edge. In that hour had the son of Ecgtheow, champion of the Geats, come to ill end beneath the widespread earth, had not his corslet, the stout net of rings, furnished him help in fight and fray. Their holy God did rule the victory in battle. The all-seeing Lord who governeth the heavens on high with ease did give decision to the right, when Beowulf again sprang up. Lo! Among the war gear there he beheld a sword endowed with charms of victory, a blade gigantic, old, with edges stern, the pride of men of arms, the choicest of weapons that, albeit greater than any other man, might have borne unto the play of war, a good and costly thing, the work of giants. Now he grasped its linked hilt, that champion of the Scyldings' cause, In fierce mood and fell he flashed forth the ring-adorned blade. Despairing of his life with ire he smote, and on her neck it bitter seized, and shivered the bony joints. Through and through the sword pierced her body doomed. She sank upon the floor. The sword was wet. The knight rejoiced him in the deed. The flame flashed forth, light there blazed within, even as of heaven radiantly shines the candle of the sky. He gazed about that house, then turning went along the wall, grasping upraised that hard weapon by the hilt. In ire undaunted, the knight of Higelac, that blade the warrior bold did not despise. Nay, he thought now swiftly to requite Grendel for those many dire assaults that he had made upon the Western Danes. Far oftener than that one last time, slaying in slumber the companions of Hrothgar's hearth, devouring as they slept 15 of the people of the Danes, and others as many bearing forth away a plunder hideous, for that he had given him his reward, that champion in his wrath, so that on his couch he saw now Grendel lying weary of war, bereft of life. Such hurt had erewhile in battle got at Heorot. Far asunder sprang the corpse, when Grendel in death endured a stroke of hard sword fiercely swung. His head was cloven from him. Soon did the wise men, who about Hrothgar kept watch upon the deep, this sight behold, that the sea's confused waves were all mingled and were stained with blood. About their good lord, old men with graying hair then said with one accord that never again they hoped to see that noble knight, or that he would come in triumph in victory to see their king renowned. Of one mind in this were many then, that this she-wolf of the sea had broken him. Now came the 9th hour of the day. The gallant Scyldings forsook the headland. He from whom they had love and gifts of gold departed thence. The strangers sat sick at heart and gazed upon the mere. They wished and hoped not that they might see the dear form of their lord. In that hour the valiant sword began, after the hot blood of battle touched it, to drip away in fearful icicles. A thing of wonder that, for it melted all, most like unto ice when the Father looseneth the bonds of frost and unlocks the enchained pools. Even he who hath the governance of seasons and of times, who is the steadfast designer of the world. In those abodes no more did the prince of the wind-loving Geats take of the hoarded treasures, though many such he looked upon, save that head alone, and the hilt too, all bright with gems. The sword had melted now away, and all its woven ornament was consumed. So hot that blood, so venomous was that alien creature that there had perished in the hall. Soon was he swimming swift, who had erewhile lived to see his enemies fall in war. Updived he through the water, the confused waves, those regions vast, all were purged, now that the alien creature had given up the days of life and this swift passing world. Lo! To the land came swimming, dauntless of heart, the chieftain of seafaring men, rejoicing in the plunder of the sea and the huge burden of the things he bore. Then the proud company of his knights went forth to meet him, giving thanks to God, welcoming their prince with joy, that they might look upon him there unharmed. Swiftly then were loosed the helm and corslet from that valiant one. The waters of the lake lay dark and still beneath the clouds stained with deadly gore. Thence in heart rejoicing they measured with their marching feet the way across the land. The road well-known royal-hearted men from that cliff beside the deep they bore the head, a weary task for each of those most brave. 4 must on a spear shaft there with labor grievous carry to the golden hall the head of Grendel, until anon they came striding thither, gallant, eager in arms, those 14 Geats, their liege lord with them, proudly among his company, trod the level ways about the hall of mead. Now in came striding that prince of knights, daring in deeds, honored with men's praise, a mighty man of valor, greeting Hrothgar. Now Grendel's head by its locks was borne upon the hall's floor, where men were drinking, hideous in the sight of men, and of the lady in their midst, a marvelous thing to look upon with eyes. Men gazed thereon. Oh my god. Welcome to Lost in the Maze number 16, the solo show only on the Billionaire Podcast Network. Ka-ching, bing, 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 dee, 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 fill her up. That was Beowulf versus 951 through 1382. Let me see, 1380, 381, 1382. Yeah, verses 951 through verses 1382. I was going to maybe try finishing this week, and having read that just now, that was a lot to take in, and that was difficult to read. This is a poem that is it's a poetic poem that, you know, you got to hit the words right, you got to get the flow, the pentameter, and it's difficult to read out loud that way. And I think, you know, hey, look, I think I'm doing a good job here. Like, if I'm being honest, I think I'm having not read this in years and just picking it up and starting to read. I think I'm doing it. And I'm stumbling at some parts. I'm having trouble pronouncing some things, but I feel like, you know, I'm being very dramatic. I'm being very rhythmic, very poetic, and I'm taking it seriously. Okay, I'm letting the story flow through me, and reading it with the theatrics and flair, as one might have in those days when stories were passed down oratorily, as stories were once disseminated before everyone could read or had access to movable printed type. Reading being a recent revelation in how we disseminate and consume information. But that, you know, the first section of the story that I read last week was, you know, the introduction to everybody, the Danes, the Geats, Beowulf and his knights, Hrothgar, all that stuff, and then the Grendel's assault on Heorot, and then Beowulf wounding Grendel, cutting his arm off. And then that is that section is the tale of Beowulf gathering the Geats, his knights, with him, and then they travel the water to go to where Grendel's mom is. Now Grendel's mom is upset, and she has laid an assault on Heorot and slain some folks. And so now Beowulf and his knights travel the waters to go to her hall and fight her. And it seems that she has some otherworldly supernatural strength or something that renders Beowulf's magnificent sword. What was the name of the sword? The sword had a cool name. Something. I can't even remember. I just read it and I can't even remember. What was the name of that sword? Raytheon? Yeah, Beowulf's sword, Raytheon. Hrunting. Yeah, the sword Hrunting. Yeah, she renders the sword useless and so Beowulf has to throw hands with Grendel's mom. Um, and I like this part of the book. It's a tale of man versus nature. In primal physical hand-to-hand combat, but also what's interesting to know, especially in all these talks of equality nowadays, Beowulf offers no hesitation in letting Grendel's mom catch these hands. He does not pay any mind to the fact that she is a lady, or nor does he consider her to be dainty or lesser than, or I ain't gonna. He doesn't say I ain't gonna tussle with no women. He goes in there and he fights. He's ready to fight Grendel's bitch mom the same as he would any man. Okay, this was a time, things changed. There's ebbs and flows over time. This was a time when women were respected and some were feared even as warriors. Um, and so it just goes to show you that what we may perceive as antiquated modes of thought are actually recent adventions in the way we think about the world, because it seems that in this story women hold positions of great power, and are either respected or feared by people. There's the contrast, the sort of like diametrically opposed the representations we see of women in this section, where you got Grendel's mom, who is an evil bitch, and then the queen of Heorot, the maiden who sits on the throne of Heorot, the other lady, and I don't remember her name. I don't really remember a lot of people's names as I'm reading this. I know, you got Beowulf, and then you got Hrothgar, and yeah, I don't know. These are all very confusing European ass Danish names, but I get the spirit of the story. Like, I understand. There's one lady who's all flowy and wears nice gowns and is very regal, makes a lot of big decisions, and then you got this bitch mom across the water, who lives in like a cave of some sort, and just like takes care of her son, sort of like the you see this uh archetype, I think is one word. You see this sort of dynamic in many stories. It's like, what comes to mind off the dome, I'm thinking of True Detective season 1, right? You've got the evil retard who has been abducting and killing children for many, many years. And then you got the Ann Dowd character that he lives with, who I think is either his mom. I think it's his mom, or his some relative of his. If I remember right, there's the big evil retard who is effectively the Grendel of True Detective season 1, and then there's his like equally retarded mom, and they have this really disgusting, abhorrent, incestuous relationship with one another, and they live in just this like filthy hovel in the bayou in whatever parish that is in Louisiana. And so that's another story in which you see this archetype. And not only that, that's just the story I thought of off the top, was True Detective season 1. But that story does follow a similar hero's journey. It does walk the same map that was cartographed, charted by Beowulf. It is a story of good and evil, and heroes of renown venturing forth into the unknown to make combat and deliver us from these tyrants, this evil that has been plaguing the land for some time. And in that story, it is an incestuous, developmentally disabled gentleman who is connected to some greater evil, which, as we see in Beowulf, Grendel is much the same, being a descendant of Cain, whereas in True Detective season 1, the evil retard landscaper who also abducts children is a descendant of some Epstein-esque, fucked up, like interconnected, powerful family, and he's just this on the lower rung of that, cast aside, and by kinship protected by the powers that be, and what have you, but is this sort of like mutated foul thing that many would rather avert their eyes from, uh, as is his the relative he lives with, his mother, Ann Dowd. And so it's up to Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, the sort of I suppose Beowulf and Hrothgar of that story, to venture forth at the behest of what would be the Heorot of that story, their local police department, to solve this case, these abductions and murders that are happening. And in doing so, they find no purchase, and are only able to um, slay the lesser than enemies that are available to them at that point in time, and they have to cover it up and make it look like something else happened, so it didn't nobody would know that the real reality was that they went in there guns blazing and kind of with disregard to any sort of police protocol or procedure. But as far as the hero's journey goes in that story, many years later, it's time to dust off all the detective, the police, the swords, as it were, their guns and equipment, armaments and raiments, and go looking for their Grendel again and Grendel's mother. And if you remember right, they go find it. So it's like, I think what I'm trying to get at, because I'm getting lost in talking about I have no idea what the point is I'm trying to make, because I just thought of that season of television just out of nowhere after reading this. But I think it's apt. Okay, I think it's apt because even in the most obscure, surrealist, avant-garde type stories, which I don't know if you would call that season of television avant-garde, but for the average American television enjoyer, it's certainly off the beaten path. It's certainly something different, and I think confusing for many as it was airing, and challenging as a text, but there is a structure to storytelling. There's a sort of inherited blueprint to storytelling that begins, or rather, maybe not begins, but is certainly better charted. We get a better idea of how story works through Beowulf, one of the original grand epic fantasy adventure, good versus evil, hero versus fiend and foe type stories, that is very it's very comprehensible, and it's we understand it. There's just everything. We understand that. We understand guys in big, bright, shining armor and chainmail and swords and shields fighting monsters, and then with a story like that, True Detective, it's like you're bouncing back and forth between timelines. There's these gray areas that all the characters exist in. There's the moral ambiguity. It's like there's good and evil, but then everybody exist in between those two, on that spectrum. They exist somewhere within it, and if you have a mind about you, if you're closer to the good side or have your some sort of moral compass, you're always in dealing with this sort of internal battle, this battle within yourself, against your own, you know, you have this like battle of good and evil within yourself that you're dealing with, that and making some attempt to remain on the path that is true. um but at the end of the day, you watch that show, and if you were to strip away all of the obfuscations and like just literary devices that are used in movie magic, Hollywood magic that's in it, and all this stuff. What do you have? Well, I mean, what do you have with that at the end of the day? You got two warriors, two knights, a couple of cops who are looking for the evil that's out there, to looking to slay this evil, uh beast, this descendant of Cain. Because what is a descendant of Cain if not a murderer? Cain being the first murderer. Um, so I think, I think that's why I am interested in this story, Beowulf, and that's why I'm interested in, I think storytelling, though it may be subjective, it may be an art form, and there is a abstract quality to it. There's this sort of ethereal quality to creating a story out of nothing, to just sit there with your thoughts and think of something cool to write down. There's a structure to it. There's something in us that we discover. There's some in the way we are and interact with the world, and perceive it. There's just something there, by which we extracted what stories were and are going to be. And so at the heart of every story, uh, you will find some elements. You'll find the ingredients that exist within these early texts that sort of like set the set the template for what storytelling is. There's always going to be like conflict, this struggle between man and either, I mean, they teach you this in elementary school when you take your first English classes, where they say it's like man versus nature, man versus man, man versus himself. Boom, right there. That's the bare bone. That's a skeleton of storytelling right there. You pick one of those, you got you a story. You got you a story cooking in the oven. If you pick, or you can pick multiple. You can mix them up, whatever you want to do. But there's definitely, like, as there is a DNA within all of us. There's this coding, this story that inhabits our own, like, cellular structure that tells our bodies like how to operate. I think there's a DNA within the story itself that, and I think that I lament the unwillingness now of many people to engage with media and literature in more meaningful ways. There is a lack of media literacy that I think people are more drawn, and it's no one's fault. Like, I'm not like I'm not one of those guys who thinks that the people are wrong or whatever. It's just the way things are going. This is the environment we're all in. But I think people have always been tend to be more drawn to just spectacle, and not having, when presented with a text or a movie, a TV show, or whatever it may be, they want something they can just like kind of turn the dial down on their brains and just understand, and that's fair. And I love that kind of stuff. I love really simple, dumb, not even dumb, but just like simple, stripped down things. Like I'll watch a Marvel movie. I don't care. They're all kind of the same thing, and there's nothing at stake. And I'm not doing a lot of thinking during a Marvel movie, but there's no ambiguity. There's certainly no moral gray areas. It's just a very simple, story structure where it's like, well, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, and don't worry, the good guy is definitely going to win because his name is in the title of the movie. So more often than not, if the name of the protagonist is in the title of the movie, they probably will come out on top. Sometimes that's not the case, but I would venture a guess that if you're going to go see a movie called Spider-Man, Spider-Man probably wins. But with other pieces of media that are out there that require more focus and engagement, that may be a little more challenging. It seems like people are unwilling to engage with them, and they use these words like, "Oh, this is random," or "This is confusing," or "This is surreal," or "abstract," or whatever it is. But I would argue that even though whomever is creating these things, um, as they're putting their own little artistic twist on this thing they're making, that the DNA of that story is this. It's the same DNA as any story. That if you strip away all of the artistic, the artistic liberties they're taking, and literary devices they're using, and all that kind of stuff, at the heart of that story, the same is at the heart of a Marvel movie, like whatever the thing is, it's the same DNA, and it goes back to you could trade if you got into like an Assassin's Creed, whatever the Assassin's Creed machine is, to go back to when the original stories were being made. Like if you got, what I mean, you could trace like everything that's being created now all the way back to Beowulf and the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the books of the Bible, the books of the Quran, like all these things, all share a DNA, some sort of inheritance within them. So whether it's whether it's Beowulf or True Detective season 1, or Spider-Man No Way Home, which I did not really care for, or Spider-Man the Spider-Verse movies, which I also don't care about. I guess they're fun, but I think people are just really annoying about them. I guess the animation looks cool, but I don't, I find the pluckiness of the protagonist Miles Morales to be grating. I don't care for that character that much, and it's not because he's biracial. It's just because he's an annoying, precocious teenager, to which I have nothing in common, and I find him to be a much more grating figure than the nerdy, submissive Peter Parker as a teenager. I didn't, I don't. It's not endearing to me that, okay, so he's a cool black guy in New York who has friends, and he's dealing with all the same trappings of puberty as anyone. Like, he's kind of awkward, but he's extremely smart. He's going to get a bunch of scholarships. People seem to like him. He doesn't really get bullied. And he's got a cool uncle telling him how to get pussy. And then it's like, oh, and also he gets superpowers. Because, well, okay, well, so it's just the coolest guy of all time. Now it's like, what if you took a cool black guy with Spider-Man powers? There's nothing relatable or endearing about that to me. Whereas like with Peter Parker, like I feel like such an idiot trying to make this argument, like talk about this kind of thing, because you just end up sounding racist, which I guess is like the ploy on Marvel's part, where it's like, let's create the coolest black guy of all time, and then any criticism toward that, people can just immediately decry racism. It's like, no. Peter Parker as a teenager was a fucking dork who had no friends. He's getting no pussy. He's getting bullied. His life sucks. And then getting bit by this radioactive spider, it is the thing that turns it all. It turns everything around for him. Now he has a chance in the world, because were it not for that, he would probably go on to be a decent scientist and probably like do well in that field, but still get no pussy and get no respect and be a submissive little dweeb his whole life. But now he has superpowers, so he starts cracking wise and being a little smart ass and sticking up for himself. It was like Miles Morales prior to the spider bite. He had no problem sticking up for himself. He was a fucking graffiti artist. He was adventurous and it was just like a cool black guy. I like it's just I don't find that character endearing in that way. You know what I mean? And it's like he has a loving family. He has like a cool black dad, cool fucking Puerto Rican mom. There's nothing perceivably bad or meager about his life. He's just like a cool black kid who also gets superpowers. Like, okay, I guess that's interesting. But and beyond that, I just find all the characters in those movies annoying, and too very bubblegummy. Just too plucky and perky and whatever. It's for children anyway. I mean that's for children. Not like Beowulf is for fucking adults. I'll tell you that goddamn much. Yeah. It's ridiculous of me to sit here and like complain about children. I mean, they are literally cartoons, so I mean they're for children. I'm just looking at it from like a character stand, like what is this character? What's his development and all that? And it's like, well, I already can't relate to a cool black guy, and now I definitely can't relate to a cool black guy with superpowers. Um, who's really smart and also like good at art, good at graffiti, and like kind of good at music. It's like, what, the most well-rounded fucking person of all time also gets superpowers. I mean, good job. What a fucking dynamic character you've created. Anyway. The point being that those stories still have that have that DNA within them. They have that the sort of like innate ethereal cultural historic inherit they've inherited the the DNA of storytelling, which is it's not like I think to contextualize story in this way, I think it it's a good I think it's a good way to think about it, because it provides a you know almost like an IKEA manual for if one wanted to try and write a story that if even as just like you don't have to have like the aspirations or ambitions to become the next Stephen King or whoever it may be. Even if it was just something you wanted to try on your own, you don't have to be the best at it. You don't have to necessarily know where it's going or what you're doing. But I think to understand that there is a blueprint for this, a formula that just exists within the like genetic code of story itself, that you can like learn. Like you can learn the sort of, like look at the manual and like piece this Borkin bed together, like that you got from IKEA. You do that with the same with the story. um it takes this very abstract ethereal concept, that being creation and storytelling and writing, and strips away all that frou-frou-ness that people get too hung up on. They're like, where do you get your ideas from or whatever? It strips all that away, and then you can see, now you're looking at the manual, and then from there you build and build on top of that, and create something new. But drawing from that which already exists. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it is like you have to steal from everything else. So like all these other things exist, and then you take from them and piece together something else, and now it's this like mutation. What does Darwin say? The genetic variation and survival and all that. Things mutate as they evolve over time. So now it's like this new mutation that exists. This singular new thing that may or may not, you know, become a prominent part of the cellular structure of storytelling, or it may just be something you did as a hobby on your own or whatever. I don't know. I just think that I guess in my studies of scripture that I've been doing, and reading Beowulf and things like this, I think what I'm looking for, or I think just something I'm trying to find out, is like how much of art and creation and these things that we would consider inaccessible to many of us, how much of it is actually just really accessible. You know what I mean? Like how much of it just exists inside of us, and if we have the willingness to access it, like can we then like unlock those abilities to in turn uh create something in our own lives. And I think that's what we learn from engaging with story, with narrative in a more meaningful way than taking an edible and watching the new Doctor Strange movie. If that makes any sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Folks, I hope you're enjoying this reading series. That was verses 951 through 1382 of the J.R.R. Tolkien translation of Beowulf. This has been Lost in the Maze number 16, only on the Billionaire Podcast Network. Ka-ching, bing, 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 did fill her up. A subsidiary of Cornfed Industries. Folks, if you will, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/cornfed with Dalton Pruitt, and subscribe there. We have a $5 tier, we have a $10 tier, we have a $15 tier, we have a $25 tier. I never really promote this other one. There is a $35 tier that gets you access to everything else, plus my feet pics. But for as little as $5 a month, you get access to all the premium episodes and bonus content. $10 a month, you get a shout out on the show. $15 a month, you get all that plus a kiss on the lips. And then for $25 a month, you get everything plus the Fraternal Order of Corn-Fed decal, which you'll receive after 3 months of being subscribed. So it is $75 for a sticker. However, once you subscribe to the $25 tier, you are welcome to message me a list of your enemies, and I will call for a jihad upon them on the show. And also, once you receive the decal, you're welcome to be a guest on the show. We'll patch you in, we'll zoom you in, and then we'll do a full hang with you. Okay. We're not concerned with glitz and glamour, fame and fortune, celebrity. What stories do they have to tell? Life on the road, hotels, talking to this that famous person and that famous person, blah blah, just boring industry, inside baseball, talking the craft of whatever bullshit they do, conversations. No, you get that decal, we're talking to you, we're going through your entire sordid past or whatever you're comfortable talking about if you want to be on the show. But we'll get into, you work at a 7-Eleven, what's that like? And we'll go through the nitty gritty, the finer details of a career as a clerk in a 7-Eleven, or perhaps you're an airplane mechanic. Whatever. There's so many jobs out there, and so much of the world of media and podcasts is focused on only those in entertainment, which is boring to talk about all the time because it's just the same thing over and over again. It's like, I do this and that and go to this club and that club or work on this TV show and that movie and writers' rooms and blah, blah, blah. No, I want to hear what it's like to clean a septic tank for a living, or scrape roadkill off the asphalt if you're in it, work for animal control or something like that, straight from the horse's mouth, from the mouths of babes, not some TV show about this job that was written by Ivy League graduates in a writer's room. No, we're talking to you get that sticker, we're going to talk to you. Okay? And really do it nice. Anyway, so let's see. There's more Beowulf left. We'll continue this next week. Maybe I'll finish, maybe not, but the show is free. Anyway, thank you. I love you, and goodbye.
Slow.